What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 322 of Opinions May Vary. I'm your host, JR. I have my co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
Joining us this week is, I'm going to do a little intro here.
Okay.
This week, joining us is probably one of the most multifaceted and hardest working, if I...
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. if I were to say so myself, because we can go down a quick list here. There's comic creator in like physical floppy form, web comic creator, a man who is able to fit into the tightest pants
Really tight
you could
pants.
possibly imagine. Think about the tightest you've seen, make them tighter. He fits in those. And then performs in front of thousands of people across the country.
With some really nice mohawks.
With some sweet, a little bit of glitter as well. That's kind of worked its way into the repertoire. Also add that, also the man teaches people for a living as well. Joining us this week is the man of many hats, Michael Bracco. Michael, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad that you brought up the tightness of my pants right before my being a teacher. I think that's
Should I reverse
great
that?
Segue.
Teacher and then tight pants.
Yes, yeah, that works better.
I should. I messed it up.
Never the two shall meet.
We're off to a great start. Long-time listeners may recognize the name from way back in episode 102. Is that what I said? I think I said it was 102 pre-show. The first time Mike was on our show with Brandon Chalmers. Mike is a member of the Super Art Fight crew. We've had a bunch of their members. We're eventually just going to work our way through the entire cast.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's you just prep all the people and just let them know, hey, these guys are probably going to hit you up at some point. But we're actually here to talk about something a little bit different. I'm sure Art Fight will come up, but because you do so much stuff, we're here to talk about your other stuff, namely one of your webcomics, because you've done a couple up until this point, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I came here to talk about a book I'm working on that I'm actually in the midst of a Kickstarter for the second volume of. The book is called The Creators. I don't know. Do you want me to give a little spiel about what it's about now, or?
Let's hear the spiel.
All right, let's do the spiel. All right. So The Creators is a science fiction graphic novel about a wave in evolution that causes a small population of young people scattered across the globe to suddenly develop the ability to bring their imaginations to life through their drawings. The power can be this beautiful world-changing thing, but it's tied to these kids' emotional states. So if they go through something traumatic, like bullying or abuse, or if their power is met with fear or violence in any way, it can come out in these disproportionately horrible ways. Like there's this one character that is a giant robotic kaiju teddy bear named Mr. Hugs. And they kind of are these physical manifestations of negative emotions. Yeah. And that's kind of the book. Just these kids trying to figure out how to control their power in a world that kind of hates them and is terrified of them.
It can be pretty heavy too at times, like because there's like the cool synopsis, like, oh, I can draw this and it could come to life, but like you mentioned, there can be some traumatic things coming into play with it, which makes it kind of scary.
Yeah.
Well, so the idea for it came from when I found out I was going to be a dad. I was looking through all my old children's books and just to find stuff that I wanted to share with my future kid. And I came across one called Harold and the Purple Crayon. Are you guys familiar with that one?
Oh, yeah. One of my favorites.
Oh, awesome. I find that like 75% of people have never heard of it.
That's an abomination.
I haven't heard of it.
So if you haven't heard of it, it's a really, really simple book about a kid in this black and white book sitting there with a purple crayon in a bedroom with a blank wall. And he gets bored, so he draws a window on the wall and then gets curious and climbs through the window he just drew on the wall and enters a world that he draws. It's nothing all that crazy. It's just this sweet story about him creating a world as he walks through trying to make his way to the moon. And it's all black and white and purple, and my book is all black and white and purple, and it's an homage to that. And but it's just this sweet story. Nothing really bad happens. There's never any like real big scary monsters or real situations. And when I was flipping through this book right before my daughter was born, all I could think about was, dear God, if kids could actually do this, the world would lose its mind. And kids would totally mess things up as a result of it. And so the book ended up being like Harold and the Purple Crayon in the real world, and kind of exploring how screwed up it would be if kids all of a sudden had the actual power of their imagination, like literally at their fingertips.
I'm still stuck on the whole Alex has never heard of Harold and the Purple Crayon thing.
I don't blame you, but he's not alone. It's a real common one.
Like I worked for Barnes and Noble for a decade, and every Barnes and Noble has a kids department.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The entryway to the kids department sometimes has the giant wood cutouts of like characters.
Yeah.
One of those is Harold.
Yeah. Oh.
And he's with his purple crayon. And in one of the stores that I worked at, there was a wizard hat on him for like 6 years for like the 5th Harry Potter book release, and no one ever took it off because no one really ever realized it was there. Huh. And then one day it got recognized, and they made us take it down. But yeah, Harold.
It had a good one.
Harold and I go way back. I think there was a cartoon, like a quick animated short, like back on like Nickelodeon or some shit like that.
It was a PBS thing.
Yeah.
It was like really low key, like the book, And
I loved it. And the fact that because I wanted to actually touch on at some point the fact that the colors and the creators are an homage to that book is, it's super rad because
oh, awesome.
the whole series has followed a very similar color scheme, and I actually wanted to ask you about that, and you answered it. You took it right away. There it is.
You already had that before we.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
Well, the other reason the color is so simple is because I suck as a colorist.
I mean, that'll do it.
And so in all the books I've done, there are these like super simple color schemes because, it like basic color theory 101. If you suck at it, limit yourself. And as soon as you do, it forces you to make these really tough choices all the time. Mm-hmm. And in making them, it kind of expedites your process in a good way and kind of makes you kind of reactionary to what you're doing. And so the whole book, to colorize it, I'll take Payne's Gray watercolor, and Payne's Gray is like a slightly bluish gray or bluish black. And I just painted like a ton of different washes with it, just different values, different gradients. And then I scan them all in, and I use those and I cut them up and mask them into the book. And that's kind of 90% of the color of the whole book. Huh. And then there's the only real truly digital color is the purple. And there's a couple other spot colors that pop up every once in a while. But yeah, so I kind of stick to this, like it's all pretty much kind of bluish, blacky, and white with like just these very specific concept-driven spot color.
So going, and this is kind of my generic question, but I'm always super interested because I got to know. Mm-hmm. We're obviously introduced to you because of art, and fighting with art. And we've I've picked up a couple of your books in the past with NOVO, and the creators, the first volume back in the day at Random Kineticon Encounters, and
thank you very much for that.
Oh, of course, man. It's they're both beautiful books. NOVO was both uplifting and crushing at the same time. With I was telling Alex, I don't know if you read comics at all. There's a book called Saga.
Oh yeah, I love Saga.
Right, it's great. Mm-hmm. And yeah. I related the character in Saga, Goose, the little white like seal guy with the giant axe. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I related him to Snurl in the first NOVO book, because it's like this adorable creature that you immediately love and connect with, and it's like, if you kill this person, if you kill this thing, I will be very upset. But we've obviously seen a lot of your art, in the past couple years that we've been introduced to you guys. So I got to know what's the history. Where did you, are you self-taught? Did you go to school for this? Obviously, teaching it, things like that. What's your art origin? Yeah, there it is. Okay. There it is.
When I've drawn my whole life. it runs a little bit in my family. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother and drawing. She was this 5'0" woman who was frail and her health was kind of poor, and she would make these like 9-foot figure sculptures for her church, and they were intense. And she would do the Last Supper, and so this little like I said, like frail 5-foot tall woman would make these like 13 people at the Last Supper, 9-foot tall versions of them all crowded around, and it was just intense and incredible. And I just remember seeing that scale and wanting to not wanting to work in a church, but wanting to really get into something that was like bigger than me, and really wanting to create something. And I loved comics. At the time, I kind of didn't read them. I just looked at them. And then when I hit about like high school age, I completely dropped comics because so I am almost 39. So I was in high school in the 90s, and
that's the right time to stop comics. That was correct. That's,
yes, it was.
There's no fault there.
But also as like a social stigma, like it was not cool to read comics.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wish I had stuck with it, because there was definitely a lot of indie stuff that was very cool at the time. But I was terrified, and I didn't have a very good social life in the first place, so I didn't want to like add to my my plate of negatives. So I went to art school in Baltimore. I went to Maryland Institute College of Art, thinking I was going to be a children's book illustrator. And let me think. And I trained for that along with art education. And one of my teachers, and combined with kind of an in-law of mine, got me like this random sit down with like Penguin Press and Random House to show them my children's book illustration. And I get this sit down with the guy from Random House, and he kind of stoically looks through my portfolio, and he's like, this stuff's really cool. I mean, you would really fuck up some kids with this kind of crazy shit, but it's really cool. And I apologize for the cuss, but like literally, the children's book editor of Random House said that verbatim to me, and he said you should try making comics. And so at this point, it's like I haven't read comics since I was 14, and I was almost offended by it, because I was like, comics, that's like really kiddish. Yeah, I was really upset. And I went back, and my roommate at the time, who had been trying to get me to read comics for a while, was like, "Are you kidding me? Now you have to do this." And he shoved a bunch of books in my hands, and I just was like hooked ever since. And the thing that really is inspiring to me is I've always been like a science fiction film nerd, and the thing that drew me to comics and making them is the idea that like I have friends in the movie business, and it looks like the most miserable business if you're a creative, especially if you're a creative person, because there's no way to just do the thing that you want. And so now you've got a world where 99 out of 100 movies are either really big budget and cool and fun and a spectacle, but not a lot of heart, or you've got these little teeny tiny independent movies which are brilliant and thoughtful and interesting, but they can't combine it with any like big fantastic ideas because they just don't have the budget. And in comics, I get to tell any friggin' story I want, no matter what, and still keep the ideas small and potent and meaningful. And which is what I try to do with pretty much everything. Is I get the chance to like make a book that reads like an independent film with no budget, but looks like a $300 million movie. And that's what got me into comics. Just the endless possibilities, and not having to rely on needing $100 million to make one happen. And then so from there, I started making comics, and I had I was working on a book called Addie and Max, which was like my crappy thing I did right out of college. And
everyone's got one of those.
Oh man. Yeah. So, and I don't even like to look at it anymore because I was trying to do something big with it, but was such a kid, and it's yeah. So anyway, the concept of it is it's this alien guy on another planet, and he is this sweet, naive person who just wants. He's like a good Samaritan, but on the back of his head is another face, kind of like Voldemort at the end of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy on the back of his head is a racist, chauvinistic piece of shit who's a drunk and like
so all the worst things.
Oh, all the worst things. And he doesn't have any control over the body, but he's got a mouth of his own. So here's this guy who's like trying to do the right thing, and every time he interacts with somebody, the guy on the back of his head makes some inappropriate comment about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was me like exploring, you know, like social norms and trying to do something really, really good with it. And I started making like a graphic novel of the story. And I got about halfway through, and I brought it with me to SPX, which is Small Press Expo, is a comic convention in the DC area, which is arguably my favorite comic convention ever. It's all independent comic makers, and it's humongous for what it is. And it's just really an inspiring place to be if you're a writer or artist. And when I went, Oni Press was there. And I brought the book and I showed it to a guy at Oni Press, and he flips through it. He's like, "Oh, I really like this. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is neat. When you finish it, bring it back. I'd love to see more." And so I left the convention that year like losing my mind. I was just super excited. And I went home and I jumped back on it, and I spent the next year finishing this book. And I brought it back, and the guy was there, and I walk up to the Oni Press table, and it's the same guy sitting there. And I hand him the binder filled with the pages, and he opens it up, and he's looking at the same pages as the year before. And so I'm expecting, like, oh, I remember this. This is really good. Instead, he looks at it, he says, "Oh, this is like you've got a lot of work to do to get ready for me." and he just tears it apart, and never even gets to like 2 pages that I have worked on. So he like flips through 10 pages and shuts it and rips me a new one and sends me walking.
Jesus.
And then on my way home, it's not a long drive, but it's about an hour. I'm in the car with my wife, who's consoling me, and she's like, "You know, you really need to just like buck up and come up with a new idea. That's the first thing you ever did. And of course it's not going to be good enough. Like nobody's first thing is ever good enough." So we actually, in the car ride home, she kind of like taunted me into coming up with an idea for a book. And it ended up being what was the first book of the NOVO series. And it was the idea of like this really just come up with something simple that I could draw the hell out of. And so the first book I ever did was called Birth. And Birth is the story of 2 different alien species who fight over horribly bigoted nonsense, just blame each other for all each other's shortcomings, and only to find out that they're biologically engineered to commingle and create something new. And they don't figure it out till it's too late, and they all die off. It's a real happy story. And then that's actually the book I submitted to Alterna Comics, who is still my publisher. And I found him right when he was starting the company. And he was like, oh, he like really fell in love with my work. And we've been kind of together ever since. And that was 12 years ago. So that's my history.
What I do want to point out is like we're talking about making art and creating, but you've also been writing your own stuff the entire time. Which is like a feat unto itself, because like it's convenient because you know what you're capable of drawing, and this way you can write to your strengths, as you're saying, you know, as far as not using colors.
Yeah, although I do screw myself over a lot. I'll write stuff, and then later on I'm like, what asshole wrote this? Oh yeah,
I blame my writer.
I do that all the time.
And like so many people, you know, who want to make something have to struggle with trying to find a partner, and you know, or a team, and either it costs them a lot of money and they can't afford it, or they just can't find the right person, and you know, well, I promise a half on the back end. Okay.
Yeah.
That always works out great. But you know, if you can do it all yourself, then you know you're pulling double duty essentially.
Yeah, I don't. I love working on my own thing. I do have some writing partners and some collaborators that I love to work with. Also, there's a great indie book called "The First Law of Mad Science," and it's like this pulpy noir science fiction. And the guys that write it are I've done a lot of work with. Yes, I want to plug their book. It's awesome. First Law of Mad Science. So
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I was doing some back issue diving yesterday on Monday, and I saw 2 issues of that. I didn't pick them up because I think it was only 2 issues out of 4 or 5, and I was trying to only like collect full runs if I could.
But it's out there.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Right.
I
I
have, and like it really piqued my interest because I'm a fan of mad scientists and villains and evil geniuses and whatnot. If people couldn't tell.
Oh man, it's a really good one, and they have their first graphic novel out, and and they're working towards finishing up their second one. But yeah, so I bring that up because 1, it's a great book, but 2, like I do love working with other people because we're collaborating on a book, and we all kind of came up with the idea together. They come up with an idea, and we kind of passed it back and forth together. And now I'm just like penciling and inking pages and tossing it off to somebody else. And man, does that feel great. Because with my stuff, I will plot out a novel and break it down into issue and story beats. And then for each issue, I'll write a script, and then I'll stop. And then I will do thumbnails for 2 pages, and then I'll do finished inks on 2 pages, and then I'll go on to the next 2 pages, and so on and so forth until I finish the issue. And then I'll scan all the pages, and then I'll colorize the pages one by one, and then I'll go to chapter 2, and I'll start over. And it is a really long process, insanely long. But you know, I'm an artist first and a writer second, if I'm honest. But the arduous process that I have, I think, really helps my writing because I'll plot it and then I'll script it, and then as I'm doing the thumbnails, I'm like figuring out what images are going to. So I make hard edits there. And then I have to I also letter the thing as I draw it. So I don't do digital lettering afterwards. So the word bubbles become part of the composition. And I both love and hate doing that.
I was going to say that sounds like a lot of extra work. It
is.
It's like whoever's drawing for Bendis, like, so I'm going to put Daredevil in this panel, but I'm going to have to leave like 3/4 of the panel open for the 16
20 speech bubbles. Yeah.
Well, the other tough thing is when you letter on your artwork, it's really hard to pull images for promotionals.
Right.
Because the word bubbles are all part of it.
Yeah.
But when I'm in lettering it on the page, I'm actually looking at the faces of them as I'm drawing them in pencil stage, so I can make changes and like reading the dialogue in their voices as I'm drawing them. And so it really I think it's something I feel comfortable with is writing dialogue because it goes through so many processes of me sitting with these characters in the moment. I feel like I'm in the room with everybody as it's happening. And so the long process, I think, really helps me. And it makes it more fun. And as much as I love working with other people, the fact that like I've gotten to put out a few things that are like me cover to cover it's really cool. I'm really proud of that. So.
Not to denounce one of the legends, but there's been a few like people that have pointed out, as good as Jack Kirby was, if you look at some of his work, like when he was on Avengers, some of the master designs a certain way, and he would get like the plot outline, and then Stan would fill in the words after the art was done, which means like the expressions didn't always match the text.
Right.
Sometimes it looked kind of stiff, and that might affect the story as we're reading it. And people would think, well, that's just how it was back then. But like people's like looking at a face and being able to draw an emotion from that, you know, even if you're not reading the words, like you should be able to tell what's happening in the story anyway.
Oh yeah.
And I dig that.
Yeah. Well, I find that when I am collaborating, there's a lot of times I'm going back and fixing things because a writer will be like, you know, I was really like, this is the emotion I'm trying to get. Like, this is the nuance here. And I'll be like, oh, okay, I read that a different way. And not that it's bad that I read it a different way, but, you know, there is something to be said of like one voice really helps somebody explore something like honestly and truly. And you know, a lot of stuff I've heard about Stan Lee and his writing process was he'd be like, okay guys, here's what we're gonna do, and he would just jump in there and have an idea and no script, and have and we'll just figure it out after the fact, which I guess is like, yeah, that's totally what you just said. So I'm sorry.
He might forget later on too and have to redo it. He
added it afterwards, but he like literally gave them nothing.
Yep.
And and I've definitely known writers who give you nothing, and writers that give you too much. All right, panel 1 of a 10 panel page.
Already,
we see the backdrop of a city of 1 trillion people. And while that's
with bicycles everywhere.
I was gonna say, I was at a panel. Brent Peoples was there. I think Guichette was there, and one other guy. And it's like, you know, how when you start off, like, how do you, you know, cooperate with people? And one's like, okay, when you're starting off, don't do, so it was midnight raining in the bicycle graveyard. And he's like, no, you start with, so Itchy says to Scratchy.
Right. Give me some easy shit.
Yeah. But one of the things I also want to say that I appreciate is that everything I've seen you do so far has all been creator owned. It's your own designs. It's your own work. I don't ever see like you selling a print of Wolverine for some reason, and like you're just working at doing exactly your own thing, which is also frequently why we'll see you in small press alleys when Artist Alley is sold out. It's like, how'd Mike get into New York Comic Con? Oh, he got in by free press because he does his own stuff and prints his own books.
Right.
Small press rather. Sorry.
I never even. Like, because we've seen your booth multiple times, you know, at many different shows, whether it's Connecticut, Boston, New York Comic Con, and I never even and now like I'm like befuddled right now because everyone, it's like here's a bunch of prints, yeah, there's Wolverine in there if you like Wolverine. You've never done that, at least from what we've seen,
yeah. And
I got it. That's rad.
Well, thanks. No, I pretty much have never done it. I did do these, like, I got really into doing these really simplified, like, fat little drawings that were really kind of, like, cute, that I did do a bunch of different superheroes and was just posting them online because I was having fun with it. But no, I don't like using pre-existing properties for the most part, unless it's something that I can really have fun with. So I do have I run a business called Spaghetti Kiss, which is all my illustration, and I screen print it in my basement onto like men and women's apparel. And for the most part, it's like all sorts of different like robots and monsters and weirdness and little like stories on a shirt.
I'm seeing a unicorn with an axe instead of a horn.
You know what? I love that drawing, and that drawing did not sell.
Oh, that's an abomination. That's the second time I've used abomination. This.
Yeah, but both are pretty accurate, I think. I couldn't believe that I got and the story of that image. So yeah, it's a unicorn, but instead of a horn, it's a battle axe.
Yeah.
And so I teach middle school art, and I was. One of my big things is teaching illustration and the idea of illustrative problem solving and trying to make an image, because what an illustration is by definition, and I say this because I'm so shocked by how many people could not define what an illustration is if you ask them. But an illustration is any image that goes along with text, whether the text is implied or not. So I was doing a event poster illustration lesson with my 7th grade students. And it's something that I have a lot of experience in, like band posters. Mm-hmm. And so the kids had to come up with bands that they like, and they had to describe different elements of the music. Like, what does the voice sound like? What kind of adjectives would you come up with? What kind of adjectives would you come up with for the instrumentation? What about the lyrical stuff? What are they, sad songs? Are they happy songs? Blah, 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 blah. And for an example, I said, so when my daughter was born, I refused to play her kids' music to rock her to sleep. And one of my favorite bands is Queens of the Stone Age. And I love Queens of the Stone Age because they are really, like, a lot of times hard and fast with intricate guitars and, like, kind of, like, fuzzy sound and heaviness. But the guy has the voice of an angel. It's like a really sweet melodic voice. And so I could turn that on and rock my daughter to sleep, and it's still her favorite band. And and she'll be like, Dad, I need to go to sleep. Can we put on Queens of the Stone Age? Yes, absolutely. It was great when I would go into the bathroom at a restaurant when she was an infant, and I'd be like blaring out of my phone in the bathroom stall, like, things are like echoing out, and dudes are coming in and are like, are you listening to Queens of the Stone Age in there? I was like, yeah, I'm trying to get my kid to sleep.
Does the trick.
So I said, and so what I'll do is after the kids come up with their adjectives, I'll be like, all right, now come up with things that can symbolize these adjectives. So we would do it for Queens of the Stone Age first. I was like, all right, so their instrumentation is all heavy and dark. And so what would be good and aggressive? So what would be good symbols for aggression? Because be like, oh, a sword, a rhinoceros, a battle axe. And then I'd be like, all right, great. And then he's got this like lullaby melodic voice. Oh, what about like a unicorn? And so the unicorn with a battle axe is actually my symbol for the Queens of the Stone Age. Huh. And put it on a shirt, and like people lost their minds over the image, but then never bought the shirt, so I had to discontinue it. Huh. Yeah,
that's a bummer.
It is a bummer. It happens though.
We've been perusing your Etsy shop pretty much ever since we started, and that was one of the ones that I've been I've been eyeing. That I think I would pick up for my wife because I feel like she would appreciate it.
I have a couple of the women's ones left. What size does she wear?
I think she wears a small. I think, yeah.
You got it. Just give me your mailing address later. I will send you one up on me.
Oh, you're too kind.
You're damn right I am.
But
humble too.
Right, exactly. And the designs, like, because we've snagged a couple between.
How many ties do you have?
I have one tie. Joe has one tie. Brett has one tie.
I have at least 2 shirts.
Does Brett have 2 ties? No, he has one. I mean,
I
bought
him
one.
A gift because he's never seen him live.
Yeah, that's true. Because Brett, God damn it, Brett.
Which is a shame.
It's all Brett's fault.
He will be owning Cute Animals on Fire though.
It's true. Yes, he did back the Super Art Fight Kickstarter from last month, 2 months ago. But there's also the ties, which are. It's like the hidden gem.
Yeah.
And I remember the first year at Kineticon when we didn't even know.
Yeah.
Apparently I was eyeing them, and you were like, "You almost bought one of those last year," and I was like, "Shut up! No, I didn't." Because the first year we went to Kineticon, you guys were there, but we didn't know.
We were ignorant.
We were dumb. Okay. We only went to Kineticon for like 4 hours, and then we went home.
Yep.
We saw Adam Warrock, who made a song for Super Art Fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he did.
And
we did not make any friends that year.
We did not. We chatted with a couple people, and then we bailed. And then we saw you guys the following year at Voltaire, blah, blah, blah. And it went down from there. But I snagged one of the, and I don't know if it's discontinued in that color, but it was the robot walking through the city on the orange tie.
Yeah.
It's pretty baller. And since then, a couple of our friends have picked up ties. I bought one as a gift for people. They're like that. And there's also the like the shirts, like we've between, because you've done a bunch of the designs for the Super Art Fight shirts as well as your shirts. Between just me and Alex and also our friend Vicky, I think we own probably like 7 or 8.
Possibly, yeah.
It's good quality shit, and you can. By the way, there's an Etsy shop. Is that the easiest way to get to all your merch, through Etsy?
Oh yeah, spaghettikiss.etsy.com.
Go there and look at the merch, because it's pretty much something for everyone. What?
Have you ever taken a good look at like his logo for Spaghetti Kiss?
Not that I can recall.
It is disgusting.
Yes, thank you.
And like anyone who's listened, like as much as I'm into horror and doing makeup and on purpose making gross things,
Yep.
like at some point I was like gonna hand a friend a shirt to wear because they needed some extra clothes, and I was like, oh, this is a good one, it's fun, it's a kid holding a robot arm, and then I saw like the back of the neck, like right on the where the tag would be on, but on the outside, and it was like, ugh. It's like these two heads open mouths, and it's just like literally spaghetti coming out of each of their mouths and like mingling.
Oh, that's their tongues.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they're kissing.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
And I was like, what is that? No, she'll love this.
My favorite thing is every once in a while, somebody will come up to my booth, and they'll see Spaghetti Kiss, and I have the image, which is like right underneath where it says Spaghetti Kiss, like Spaghetti Kiss, and I'll just see somebody like, oh my God, Spaghetti Kiss, like Lady in the Tramp. Oh, sweet. Oh, how? Oh my God, that's disgusting. And I love that reaction. I love, like, people almost like, I could see them imagining like slurping spaghetti with their favorite person, and then just seeing that image and just throwing up in their mouth. It makes me very happy.
And that's what makes it all worthwhile.
It is quite a shock.
It is.
Even coming from me.
So this whole conversation started because I had to admit something to you guys. You were complimenting me on the fact that I don't do, like, have Wolverine or different licensed characters at the table, and it's true, but I do have a number of ties that are based off of things, like I love Jules Verne.
Yep.
And so I do have a couple of Jules Verne inspired ties. And I do have a Little Red Riding Hood inspired thing. So, I think it's impossible, though, to completely get rid of like homage and stuff. But yeah, I think after doing conventions for a while, you look at, and not that there's anything wrong with this, and there are some people that do it artfully and beautifully, and I've bought some of it and I've loved some of it, but you see so many people using ideas that are like, just getting cycled through movies and everything, and it's like, oh, there's a Venom movie coming out, I better make some Venom art.
Right.
And when I come up with something new, I'm always like, my thought process is like, what have I never done before? What do I want to do? And I think that there's something really fun about that. And whenever I see another artist that's doing that, or writer that's doing that same thing, like, oh, I'm doing this because nobody's ever done it before, or I'm doing it just to do something that I love to do, and it's so obvious that I love to do it, I usually buy that work.
Right.
So
I get drawn to that a lot too. But like I get what you're saying, because I don't. There's no problem with doing homages. Like if I'm not regularly a tie guy, but if I was one, I would have the submarine getting attacked by tentacles.
Obviously,
it's one. Yeah,
it's a no-brainer.
And like all the Cthulhu inspired stuff, and that's good. But like you're still making it your own. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look at a piece and I could, I think I could tell like when it's a Bracco tentacle, or a Brinicle.
a Broxicle? Oh wait, no, that's something else.
We're not at the Unleash show.
Oh right, no, sorry.
Where was I going with this?
I mean, it's just refreshing.
It is. At a con one year, I bought a print from a young girl who had made a piece of art, and like I couldn't even explain it. She didn't have a history behind it.
Right.
It was basically a person who had an astronaut helmet, but the front screen was open, and there was like plants growing out of it, and this person was wearing shorts and boxing gloves, and I was like, what's up with this? And she's like, I just wanted to make this. And I go, sold, I'll take one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would have taken one too. That's amazing.
It was so cool. And like there was like these cables coming out of the back of the helmet, like it was powered somehow. But I'm kind of a sucker for like deep sea divers and astronauts in
It's
space suits. But
it's really easy to get caught up in and I fall into it myself all the time. You start to like turn into almost like an elitist, like, oh, this is my my Batman drawn by Jim Lee. That's in a $10,000 frame, and it's on my wall. And don't even look at it because you're diminishing the value. It's very easy to be like, I only collect the highest quality from the biggest names. But like when you fall into that mentality, you're missing out on so much.
this is new and different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it shuts you off from all of the best stuff because like yes, your Jim Lee is probably fantastic, but I have this thing drawn by this person that you may not have heard of that I treasure just as much as your Jim Lee. It means that much to me, and like it might not even be a Batman. It could be submariner boxing glove girl with shorts on. It's you just miss out on all the good stuff.
And when you have friends, like how many stories could I tell about Art Adams? None.
I don't think I've ever heard an Art Adams story from you.
Right. However,
Nothing against Art Adams.
if you want to ask me about any of the Super Art Fight shows I've gone to, I have hours of
Yeah.
material.
Hours of incriminating evidence on me.
No.
No, you know what? I think that when it comes down to it, there's a difference between finding stuff that you really love and want to connect with and just collecting.
Right.
And like I never was interested in making stuff that people collected. I always wanted to make stuff that got used. And I'll never forget. There's two moments. And one was for a book and one was for I think it was a hoodie. I remember somebody came up to me to get a book signed from me, and the book was torn to shreds. Not like abused, but like read 100 times.
Well loved. Yeah.
It brought tears to my eyes, and the person apologized to me. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. He's like, yeah, all my friends really liked it. I passed it around. I've read it 10 times. And I was like, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. And a couple of years ago, a guy came up wearing a hoodie that I had designed and printed. And he had 4 holes on either side of the front of it. And I'm like, oh my God, did it fall apart? He goes, well, yeah, but I wore it every day for 5 years. This is my favorite thing I've ever owned. And again, it like brought this tear to my eye of like, holy shit, there's something I made that somebody wants to put on themselves and make it part of like how they identify with the world. And that's like, that's my shit. That's amazing. And whereas if, I don't know, I kind of feel like, but at the same time, if I walk in and see somebody with a bunch of framed stuff up on the wall that they paid a lot of money for, and and it's like showing it off, there's that like, it's like, oh look, I've collected these things that are very important, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it's wonderful, but it's a different type of love than like, I found a thing that I truly love and have beaten to hell and I still love it. Right. It's like, it's the difference between loving a puppy and loving a 13-year-old dog. I don't know if that metaphor or allegory makes any sense, but it's like, it's so easy to love a puppy.
Right.
It's really hard to love a thing that like shits on the carpet 4 times a day.
Yeah.
Wait, yes, I think I made the allegory work.
Yeah, it's there. It's there. And it makes a lot of sense too, because there's all the it's like how they won't sell rabbits around Easter.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy. Oh my God, I want a rabbit so bad.
It'll make a great gift.
But I don't want to deal with the rabbit.
Yeah.
I want to have the rabbit, and I want it to cut. Oh, it shit on me. What the? What? They don't do this. Get rid of it. Kill it. Like.
No. Well, yeah, because rabbit tacos are delicious.
Everyone knows that.
Rocco.
They should.
One of our past guests, I think it was Bob Bretal, was telling us a story.
The world record holder for the largest individual comic book collection.
Guinness record book holder.
Yeah.
Record book holder. Yeah. Anyway, he met an artist and he brought his hardcover to them and asked them to sign it, and he got it brand new. Like, he had his like busted red copy back at the house, but like wanted a nice crisp one signed. And the artist, opened it up to go sign it. Was like, real snark about it, and fed him some kind of shit like, "Or I could have read it first."
Ooh.
And Bob was like, "I did." Or sometimes you care for something so much you just want to keep it pristine.
Right.
And like,
that
was the attitude he got from it.
Well, and man, I would never shit on somebody for wanting to keep things pristine. I'm honestly, I'm a terrible collector. I have a collection of comic books, but it's on a shelf in my attic, and I go up there before I go to the beach every summer, and I go through and I'm like, "Ooh, I haven't read this in a while, and I haven't read that in a while," and I pull out and all the stuff that I want, and I take it with me. But I have never been. I don't take good care of anything because I'm too busy like ruining them to make something.
Right.
And it's just the personality I have. So, but from a creator standpoint, I mean, I kind of get wanting to see people bring stuff to you that's well loved and well used, but that's a big jump that jerk made.
Yeah, it's and like I get it too, because like you said, it's to know that someone looked at your stuff, well loved, just like when you crack it open, like you hear the spine snapping. It's like you never even opened this. You just gonna flip it. It's because it can be really easy to be pessimistic, especially in the age of eBay. And
if I tell you who it is, you won't be surprised either.
Yeah. But speaking of, we've been talking about the creators and all your work. There is a website, creatorscomic.com, where you can go and check out the digital versions of it. There is the Kickstarter as well for the creators. It's Volume 2, Strength and Unity, which congratulations, by the way, is fully backed and then some. With as of the time of we're recording this, there's still 16 days to go.
Yes.
So right now we're just working on stretch goals.
So I want to talk about my first stretch goal because I'm really, really excited about it.
Talk about it.
Okay. So there's two elements to it. Number one, which is cool because we did on the first one, is I want to do a spot UV cover. This is the lesser of the two. It really does make the book look cool. But when I found out I was going to have a kid and I was going through the books and blah, 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 Harold and the Purple Crab. But then I found out that I was going to have a little girl. And up to that point, everything I'd ever written or drawn was totally from a male perspective. And so the whole book, like this book is just filled on purpose with like me trying to empathize and create something that my daughter can look back on and be proud of me for when she's old enough to read it. And so like the protagonist is this girl named Maya, who is what I would, before she was born, what I imagined my daughter would look like at 15 years old. And watching her grow up, I actually did something. I mean, it's ubiquitous enough that it's not hard, but like she's might turn out to look very, very similar to this person. And, and I really wanted as many like strong female characters in the book as I could, because I was like in this place of like, oh my God, I have to father a girl and go through all these things and look out of empathy instead of like knowing what I went through. And, and it was really important to me. And anyway, the book is not for little kids. It's nothing horrendously inappropriate, but there's this one character in the book named Mr. Hugs. And Mr. Hugs is the creation of a girl, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but it's one that I talk about pretty freely, and it's for a book I haven't, in the creators that I haven't written yet. But Mr. Hugs is a robot that is the disembodied head of a teddy bear attached to the body of an orb-shaped robot with tentacle arms and legs. And it is the owner of it, or the creator of it, is a girl named Roxy, which at any point in the first two volumes you don't know this, but she is the victim of abuse. And as a reaction to the abuse that she incurs, she creates this robot. And it's kind of this bittersweet story with this big, lovable character that you kind of learn as you go that there's some trauma going on in this person. Anyway, Christmas of 2017, my daughter was watching me draw Mr. Hugs in my sketchbook, and she's like, "You draw that guy a lot. I like him. He's cute." And so she drew him. And, you know, we draw a lot together. Uh-huh. And so for a 5-year-old, the drawing is actually pretty cool. And you could see a picture of the drawing on the Kickstarter site or on the Kickstarter page. And so the second half of the stretch goal is I want to include it. I want to colorize it in the style of the rest of the book, do a little write-up about like how like I came up with the idea for the book and how it connects to my daughter, and you know, like, and her drawing of Mr. Hugs colorized by me included in the book. So it's this really adorable, wonderful little children's drawing after you've gone through this big adventure semi-starring this character, and then see my 5-year-old daughter's rendition of it. So yeah, and it'll be the final page of the book as the stretch goal.
It's you can see, like Mike said, you can see a picture of it on the Kickstarter under the stretch goal section, and it is it's pretty. How old is she? You said she's 4.
5. She's 5.
5. She's already a better artist than me, and it's pretty great that the stretch goals. It looks like you're creeping up on the first one. You're under $1,000 to get there. I think you're at what, 5,700. Stretch goals at 65, and then there's more stretch goals on from there. And like I said, there's still 16 days to go. So I would really like to see that stretch goal come to fruition, if I don't say so myself.
Oh yeah, me too. Although what's funny is I asked my daughter's permission first.
Of course. And
she goes, "Yeah, you can put it in there. But it kind of depends." I said, "Oh, okay, on what?" I was expecting her to tell me I had to take her out for ice cream. She goes, "Well, you said you want to color it. I want to see what it looks like when you color it, and then I'll decide."
Oh. I thought she's going to be looking for royalties.
She looked at it hard and quiet for like a solid minute before she's like, "Yeah, okay, you can put that
in." She has to know if the work passes.
Yeah.
This might be a loaded question, or you've kind of already answered it, since you'd said like you don't really look to make things that would be collected or like would be considered collectibles because you want to tell stories, but it's also, I guess, like the self-hate involved in trying to expand, and like, would any of these characters be something you'd want to make into like a figure or, you know, like a mini statue or something? Because that usually ends up being a lot of extra work and people really regret doing it. But is that something you would look forward to, or would you just want to tell more stories?
I mean, there's always stuff that I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool. Like, there's so many things that I'll come across and be like, oh, I would really love to mess around with that. But when it comes down to it, like, and I'll be honest, like, if anybody ever came to me and was like, we want to make a movie out of your book, I don't care if it's the shittiest movie in the world. They can totally, like, if I get, like, you know, if I'm treated fairly about it, if they make some horrible movie or some amazing movie off of that would be awesome. I would be totally into it. So the idea of somebody else coming in and, like, in a fair way using something that I've made and doing something cool with it, oh yeah, I'd be totally about it. But I'm a terrible sculptor, and honestly, you're right. You kind of answered the question for me. Yeah, I would be way more interested and be like, great, go do that thing. Keep me in the loop. I want to move on to the next thing. I really am. And these projects, these books. I mean, my daughter was born in 2012, so I've been working on these books for over 6 years now, and I still have one more volume that I want to do to, like, finish off the series. So every book series I've done, or the 2 big book series that I've done, were each a decade of my life. So yeah, moving on is definitely a thing that's important to me.
While having a full-time job.
Yeah.
Plus touring, you know, with the Art Fight troupe and doing all those shows throughout. Yeah. That
really works in my favor, though. Super Art Fight's been amazing for me. It's given me a lot of opportunity to, like, do shows and travel and get my work around and get to act like a complete and utter moron. Yeah.
and fool idiots like me who think the accent's real.
So the last time I was on a podcast, I actually told the person that, yeah, every once in a while somebody will think the accent I do for my character is real. I don't want to tell you what they said about people who actually think that accent is real.
Hey, man.
All right, hang on.
We were at a very unique show.
So everything that was happening at that show, the costumes, it was a really weird. We talked about it on Ross's episode. It was a really strange combination of like steampunk and goth and music and art and some kinks, thrown
Pixie
in
and fairy and
No, that's fair.
Just, there was so much, and like to have this accent get thrown in there was not at all the strangest thing happening that weekend.
No,
like not even in the top 20.
It's like, you know what? At this point, I believe it's probably real. I don't. It is.
We just
whatever.
stop questioning it.
You know what? You get a free pass. I totally. But you're not the only one that ever came up to me, and when I say, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" they're not like, "Oh my God, wait a minute! I thought your accent. Why are you talking like you're from New Jersey?"
It's because I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah. I feel bad. I feel like there's got to be like a large contingent of people listening to this who have no idea what the hell we're talking about.
There's plenty of source material, backdated that they can go check out. You've been Mike. For those who don't know, Michael has been on the show before, way back in 2014, with another member of Super Art Fight, the amazing show that we've hyped up so many different times. And he plays a character, Baron von Sexyful, with a beautiful. Is it Eastern European?
Oh, well, yes, it is. Hello, everybody. Have you all come to listen to the sweet, dulcet tones of the Sexyful man himself? Oh, of course you have.
See, it's if anything, I feel like this whole episode he's been using a fake accent.
Yeah, that was a real one.
And he just kicked it.
Sometimes you have to keep the mystery in the air. Sometimes you need to let the truth just dribble down like chocolate syrup on a very, very Sexyful strawberry ice cream.
There it is.
And that's where the tight pants came in at the opening.
The tight pants, yep. Yeah, they're fantastic. And we've seen you both triumph and also get robbed.
I never lose. I only get robbed.
Fair.
Well, like, what was funny, like we brought that up to one time. I think it was when we had Marty and Chalmers on, and JR had thought you got robbed at Kineticon. I forgot her name. It was like a guest artist that you had on, and Chalmers, like, he didn't get defensive, but he explained it really well. He's like, well, the girls were cheering for the girl, and their voices carry really well. So if you want to defend your favorite artist, you got to get up front and get loud. And it's like, he's done this before.
Shut up, Brandon.
Shut up with your logic and problem-solving skills. I don't like you.
I even got a message because that was one of the years where it was when Kineticon had the big main theater and they didn't section it off for some reason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And they were streaming it.
Yeah.
And I sent a link of it to my wife, and I was like, "Hey, this is the thing that I never shut up about. Check this out, and see if you like it." And at the very end, like, she sends me a text right after it, and it just all in caps. It just says "robbed."
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was rooting for you. But I mean, it's always like you can't get too upset because at the end of the day, you get to witness this crazy, beautiful, like, just amalgamation of art and professional wrestling in a way. It's great.
I'm sure a lot of
lose is the most fun thing I've ever done. And at this point, I've done like 150 to 200 bouts, and I still, every time I get up there, I'm like ready to go. It's amazing.
Do you like look forward to the release of just like not caring what kind of person you are? Because like, I can be very subdued and I'm very chill, and there's not many elements where I just let go and just be someone else. I guess it's what I'm cosplaying sometimes, maybe. But
Okay.
But like, is that something you look forward to, or is it like, oh, I gotta go put on the tight pants again and be amazing on my sunglasses and.
Sometimes when I'm putting on the costume, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like there's that moment of like, what am I like? I don't know. There's a self-reflective moment, but really it's just self-doubt, because as soon as I'm on that stage, there's nothing like it. And it's really fun to get up there and like the common phrase "fake it till you make it" comes to mind. Like I just go up there and act like the absolute like greatest thing, like God's gift to every human being, like the sexual fantasy of every living thing on earth. And by the end of it, I kind of feel like that. And it's just by way of this performance. And I think that there's something really awesome. There is this like intense release of like, I just get to be like this raw little corner of the back half of my brain and just like take that nerve, just pinch it and just go with it. And it's awesome. But when I first came up with the idea, and Art Fight was, this was 6 or 7 years ago, I first came up with the idea of the Baron. And I told the guys, and Brandon was always very behind me in the idea. He actually like was somebody that as I was like talking about it, he was like, go on. But everybody else was like, wait, you're gonna be Baron von Sexyful, and you're gonna have what accent? And I would do it on our weekly meeting, and they would be like, yeah, all right. If you want to, but that's like the dumbest thing we've ever heard. And
nice knowing you.
Here I am. Oh man. So here I am like ordering clothes and like finding stuff and getting to do this. And I got a teammate on board, and she was finding outfits, and like we get up there and I'm dressed in like a these little booty shorts that were like a 1970s bathing suit for like a guy that was like 5'2", and I'm squeezing my ass into them. And I'm wearing a like ladies V-neck t-shirt and a giant leopard print, a jacket, and these big aviator glasses. And I'm waiting to go up on stage. And I'm nervous as hell. I'm like, what am I doing? And Ross and Marty, the two hosts of the show, walk up to me, and they're like, you're brave for embarrassing the hell out of yourself. Like, good luck going home tonight after this. And then they go on stage. And the color in my face just drained. And I just am like, what am I doing? They're right. I should go put on my regular clothes. And Brandon Chalmers walks up to me. And he goes, I've never seen anything sexier than you. And he smacks me hard on the face and walks up on stage. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do this.
He is frighteningly motivational.
Yes, he is. Yes, he really is.
He is a man
in the
that you want
way.
in your corner.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I got to ask, I unfortunately, due to a insanely busy schedule that weekend, I missed out on the PAX bout. How did that end up going?
Oh man. Well, 99% of that went awesome. We were scared, like going up there, we didn't know what to expect. So we had a room that fit, I don't know, somewhere between 800 and 1,000 people, maybe a little bit more than that. And we had it 3/4 of the way full. I mean,
nice.
we did not expect to go up to this place where we weren't at a table selling the show. We were just a thing on a list, along with 1,000 other things. It was me and Jamie Noguchi. So it was just the five, the five of us that like own and operate it went up. So it was Brandon, Marty, and Ross, who are the ref and the two hosts. And then Jamie Noguchi and I, who are now the two of the three oldest remaining members. Jamie Baldwin is I think the only other one. And we just went up there and like we like ran out and just did our thing. And I got a little bit tuned to my character at the end. And I both Jamie and I don't use markers. We use a cup of ink and brushes just for speed. And plus it's just pretty. It's just a pretty line quality. Yeah. And It's hard to be pretty with Art Fight because it's so fast. Anyway, in the last second, as I'm like screaming and cheering, I just took the marker and without even looking, I tossed it up into the air behind my head. And a 1 in a million shot, it landed on my ink cup and spilled it all over the convention center carpet. Oh yeah, and it was this like thick turquoise ink that just like, and I'm looking at this crowd of like 500 to 600 people, and I hear them like screaming, and then and they all saw it, and I knew it immediately when I saw these people's like facial expressions change, and I turn around and I see it, and I completely broke character. I just turned around, I was like, oh no, yeah. And so then I spent the next 30 minutes with the help of like Vicky was a great help, and a couple other people were just sitting there who was like, who's got a Tide pen? Holy crap, somebody find a goddamn Tide pen.
Run to Cosplay HQ, they might have one there.
Yeah. So other than that, it was awesome, and to go to a show like that was just incredible. So
I'm glad to hear that. It was a bummer. Unfortunately, I had to miss out, despite the fact that I hyped it up to everyone. But I'm glad that it seems like people got the memo, because it is one thing, like, you know, like at Kineticon, everyone kind of, you know, a lot of people know you guys there. And also like you have the tables and stuff. So to be at a show where it's in the program, and unless, you know, like, you know, you got to hunt it out. So to see that, you know, hundreds of people were intrigued and were like, yo, I think Super Art Fight sounds cool, at a show that you guys have never been at is good, to put it as bluntly as possible.
It is much goodness.
It is the good. And it makes me
and
happy.
I was like, after the show, it was really cool because people were like coming up and trying to meet us and like ask us questions, and I'm like hunched over with like in pants that tight, your ass hangs out. So I'm like just like in the most unflattering position in very shiny blue clothing. Very tight, shiny blue clothing with this hairy ass like sticking out of the back, just like mopping up piles of ink. My hands have been stained blue. It looks like I did very bad things to a Smurf, and people are like coming up trying to like shake my hand and ask me questions, and like I'm trying so hard to be like polite and affable because I'm like really excited to talk to people, but I'm like I screwed up. I'm real sorry, buddy. So yeah,
I know at one time in the past, Steam Powered Giraffe got hit with a hefty bill because they got some of their black makeup on a hotel floor,
right?
And they like on purpose have to get like the blackest black makeup, which has like combinations to it where like it comes in a powder and they have to put
mix it,
like a special mix they do with it.
Yeah.
A lot of friends have like a keyword or just phrases they could say to each other to make them chuckle, and one of ours between me and JR is just
is tentacles.
Tentacles. And
I can't remember what show it was from.
I don't know which one, but like you were in like a championship bout, and you got like to choose the opening theme or topic, and like you just like strut to the mic and just go tentacles. Like we lost our shit.
I think that was the year it was live streamed at Kineticon. I think so. It was like 2016, maybe 2015. I can't remember, but it was that's turned into one of our long running jokes. Because
I'm honored.
when you hear tentacles with that nice legitimate beautiful accent, it's
totally legit.
And there were a lot of tentacles that day, which is always a good thing.
So many lovely suctiony tentacles.
Oh, it's like the time Keith Silverstein did the Torbjorn voice. So as we get low on time here, obviously we mentioned the site creatorscomic.com. Michael, where can people see your stuff? We've been talking about your stuff for over an hour now. I believe we mentioned the Etsy. How do people find you?
So I'm pretty easy to find as long as you just remember Spaghetti Kiss. So if I'm on Instagram as Spaghetti Kiss, Twitter, but really right now I'm really trying to push the the Kickstarter. I really this book has been a thing I've been working on forever, so I'm really hoping people are intrigued by it. And that you could just search for the creators on Kickstarter. But if you find me anywhere online as Spaghetti Kiss, I'm kind of, talking about it a lot. So I think that's the best way. SpaghettiKiss.com, Spaghetti Kiss on Twitter and Instagram or on Facebook. Yeah, I'm easy to find. And Baron von Sexyful on Super Art Fight.
There you have it. Go find it. If you like it, go throw money at it as well.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Also, very cool person in person as well. Because we've bumped into you at many different cons, and you've always been more than willing to chat with us. I've even brought people up to the booth and be like, hey, can you give him the Arch Fight spiel? Tell him what Art Fight is.
Oh boy, my Arch Fight spiel. No, but you guys are awesome. I have so much. One of the first things I thought of when I found out we weren't doing ConnectiCon this year was like, oh, I'm not going to see the opinions may vary, guys.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's been one of the main things that we look forward to. It, like, especially last year when like Jamie hit us up and he's like, yo, where are you nerds at? We're getting barbecue. And we're like, wait, what?
We're cool enough to hang out with these guys?
I thought we just
That was awesome.
I thought we just annoy you and like hang around and like, hey, we're your Connecticut friends, I guess. But it was really cool. It's a bummer to hear that you guys aren't going to be up here this year, but hopefully we'll just be able to supplement it with something different.
Hell yeah.
We'll have to go to a different show to see him.
I mean,
weird question. Does Super Art Fight have like a different gang of friends in each location that you normally do shows?
no, we're their only friends.
Like was Otakon one of them, or was that like one that you don't do? Or
No, Otakon we do. So here, I guess the interesting thing about it is that ConnectiCon is, and this is what's sad about not going back, is ConnectiCon is like, we've made so many friends in Baltimore and DC because that's where we're out of, and we've got a really good contingent of fans and a really good just group of people that we've gotten to know over time. And when we go to other cities, we've definitely met some people and made some cool friendships. But like at ConnectiCon is the place that we go out there, and it's like, oh my God, these are people that we see once a year, and we actually like, this is the only time we see them. It's like seeing your family. You go out there and you have these 3 days to like get all the shit you got to do done, but then also like connect with people. And I've got some amazing memories of going up there. I know that one year it's always my birthday weekend, and I've never cared that I'm like out and about on my birthday, but once you have a daughter who like is aware of what a birthday is, being away for it kind of sucks. And I remember that like I was out with the Art Fight guys and they were all like exhausted. I'm like, yeah, it's 10 o'clock. We're just going to go back to the hotel. And I remember just like, there were people there that were like, Baron von Sexyful, it's your birthday. Let's go out and have a blast. And I was like, okay, you guys made my day. And I feel like there's some sort of sense of solidarity at that show that is just amazing. And something about that town that's just really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, I don't know, maybe we'll see, maybe ConnectiCon will learn the error of their ways. And
we'll talk to some people.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll miss us as much as we're going to miss them.
That's the best way of putting it. Yep. Michael, thank you so much for coming on. This was a ton of fun. Congratulations on the creators.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see essentially what comes next, and what comes after. It's going to be rad. But congrats again. This is a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Say hey to all of our best friends. The guys who they totally know who we are.
Yeah.
By the way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, go and check out Michael's stuff. Search Spaghetti Kiss. Just think of the image. Just spaghetti kissing.
Yep. Just full on making out.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Lots of tongue. Just all the tongue.
Spaghetti tongue.
Just more than you'd ever need, but you didn't know you needed more. Exactly. Yep. There it is. Check out the creators, Kickstarter, throw money, all that fun stuff. I think I've said enough things, right? Yeah, I think we're good. Oh, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do it. No, I'm gonna cut that out.
Oh, well, wait. You got my.
I had one other
What?
question, and
Okay.
it's kind of left field here, because with the creator, all the things that you've managed to put together throughout the years, we've been following for some time now. There is one thing that kind of I've always been really curious about.
Okay.
What's up with the Hellboy 2 hate? What, like, I don't under.
Oh man, I'm happy to answer this, but it's not that interesting of a thing. I mean, all right, yes, I hate the movie Hellboy 2. I mean, it's like slightly better than the Star Wars prequels. So it's not the worst movie in the world. No,
halfway into that, I was
remember,
like, "You're conning him right now."
oh man. So I remember when they announced the first Hellboy movie came out that I was really excited, but I was like, this is gonna suck. And when it didn't suck, when they actually cobbled together a pretty decent movie with the greatest Abe Sapien ever, I was like pretty stoked. And so when Hellboy 2 came out and those trailers looked amazing, I was really, really, really excited. And when I watched where they were like, I cannot stand movies that are all visuals and no actual content.
Yep.
And there was like, yes, that movie's fun and cool and over the top, but I just think it is the most like boring ass ever. And so I'm glad that you already did my plugs, because people have already hopefully decided not to go. Because everybody gets so mad at me for hating on that movie. But yeah, I hate that movie to the point that it's an in-joke.
That was a throwback. Way back in the day, I pretty much stole that entire bit from our friend Colin, who way back at Kineticon 2015 or 16, you guys had done a panel.
It was like a live podcast.
Yeah, it was like Super Fight the podcast live, and you record it in front of the audience. And someone mentioned something about Hellboy 2.
CC Shinobi brought it up, I think.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, we have time for one more question. And Colin, our friend
it happened
Colin,
to be Colin, who's our very good
and
friend.
like he has this really beautiful lead up, like this really nice like intro, and then like just drives the knife in. What's wrong with Hellboy 2?
and then like the podcast ended. It's like,
That's
okay,
all the time we
got. So I had it's been digging at me, and because I get it. I was actually at the gym the other day and Hellboy 2 was on. And I was running on the treadmill and I was just like reading the closed captions and I was like, wow, this isn't as good as I remember.
No. It's a good treadmill movie. Like if you need a distraction from horrible agony of exercise, that's a good movie.
Yeah. Yep. That's what it's good for.
I prefer watching a movie about a lawgiver in Mega City 1, so then I could be on the treadmill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So now you have to watch Judge. Yep. Okay.
Judge Tread.
That's what we're gonna end on. That's really what we're gonna end on. I guess that's it.
You're welcome.
Well. Michael, thank you so much.
The end of the Ross episode.
Yeah, you should have saved that for him. Oh well. Thank you so much for coming on again and giving us a bunch of your night. Best of luck.
Yeah.
Hope the Kickstarter makes $1 billion. And
Me too.
right? Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be great.
The first $1 billion Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Someday it's gonna happen. But go check out all of Michael's stuff. Go if your Super Art Fight is in your town. Go check them out. They are a hell of a lot of fun. Oh, yes, they are.
Support live events.
Support live events and independent creators because they make some real good shit. So that is going to do it for this week. I'm done rambling. Until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And I am bad and fun sexy. Michael Bracco.
And this has been... Man, this episode got real sexy. Episode 300, episode 322 of Opinions May Vary.